1985 by returning to India from Qualcomm, San Diego. Prior to that, he has worked on telecom systems, data networking with TNet Group, IITM and HCL HP, Chennai. There was always a strong motivation to build a world-class software product company in India. Co-founded Zoho in 1995 and Delium in 2016, Gofrugal was started in 2004 with a vision to transform trade business operations digitally for improved customer experience, helping them sell more and serve their customers happily, gained valuable first-hand experience about the diversity, opportunities, and the challenges of doing business in India, and best opportunity to coach multiple generations of engineers, providing the right leadership model for motivating and building high-performance teams, and most importantly, staying young. As a fitness freak, Kumar practices yoga almost every day and encourages healthy living and eating to everyone in his sphere of influence. His current mission is to ensure every company is a happy place to work, as happiness creates success and success breeds success. May I now invite Mr. Kumar Vembu, founder and CEO, Gofrugal Technologies Private Limited, Chennai, to speak on digitization and automation is the new landscape for MSMEs.
Good morning, all. Good morning. Yeah. So, I congratulate the Andhra Chamber of Commerce for, being such a, long-lasting institution on celebrating their 94th, birthday today. And I am also very thankful, for them to inviting me here for this MSME conference. And a special thanks to Mr. Anand for inviting me here. So I want to, speak on this digitization, right? How do, about the importance of going digital for the MSMEs. Before that, even why MSMEs should, or what is the opportunities in front of the MSMEs, why they should go digital, and what is digital, how they can go digital. So these are the 3-4 things I thought I'll speak about here over the next 30 minutes, and we will have some time reserved for question and answers, as Mr. Anand mentioned. So first up, our president was mentioning about the, the number of MSMEs, the GDP, contribution of MSMEs to the GDP, and things like that. But many times, we also see that, the large businesses, or the very large businesses, or highly invested businesses hog the limelight when it comes to press, and that make many of the MSME owners wonder, right, or even question whether they are doing the right thing, and what is the future of their business, right? They all the time question what is the future of the business. So I want to add a couple of my perspectives here. So the first thing is, why is there so much investment, right, into India over these last many years, right? So we have to understand that, and where are those investments? That is also something we have to understand what is the opportunity in front of us. So there are, two things, we know, especially post-COVID. One is, who will be the next factory of the world, right? So that is the first thing we have to understand. And the second thing is, who will be the major consumers of the world in the future, right? These are two very important things we have to understand. So to know who will be the factory of the world in the future, we have to look at, what are the demographic profiles of our country, what is the population growth that is, demographic profile of various countries across the world, what is the population growth of various countries across the world, and, and that will show us the opportunity, right? So if you look at population growth, including immigration of developed countries like US or even Germany and Japan and countries like that, they are only, aging very fast, right? Their population is not growing and they are aging, right? And whereas if you look at India, even in China, the population is not growing, and that's why the government has incentivized people to have now second kids or third kid and things like that. Despite that, the population is not growing, right? And whereas in India, our population continues to grow, and we continue to remain, the youngest of these countries, right? We are 10 years on an average younger than China, and probably 20 years younger than US, and 25 years younger than Japan and things like that, right? So, by, either our people have to be taken to the factories to work, or factories have to come here, right, so that we can work. That is why so much investment is coming into India, so to set up factories, because people are available here to work, right? That's what, Dr. Carlson also covered in his talk, saying in Germany, how many people are getting out of the labor force every year, and so many new people are not joining the workforce every year, right? So that net, they have reduction in the total available people to work. Right? Whereas in India, at least for the next 20-25 years, we are going to have, more people joining the workforce, right? With more and more women joining the workforce, and our population now, we have maximum people in the 15 to 25 age group only. That means more and more people are going to come into workforce. So this means, we can take it for granted that, if we are all willing to work, there is going to be so much work and opportunity available for us, right? So that is one point. On the other side, when we are the young country, the younger people are going to, spend more. They are going to consume more. In fact, the chairman of HUL, like about 2 years back, he said, India has one of the lowest per capita FMCG consumption in the world, right? So he also said, if India's per capita FMCG consumption reaches Indonesia levels, our total FMCG market will be 2 times what it is today. If it reaches, China levels, our FMCG market will be 4 times what it is today. And if it reaches Philippines level, we will be 6 times. And if it reaches Thailand levels, we will be 8 times. So that means, we know that, more and more people are getting jobs in India. Average income levels are raising, from the look of our markets, right, and the crowd in our restaurant and everything, we can say consumption has been growing because people are having more and more income in this country. So that means if you are in a business which is addressing consumers, right, you can be assured that over the next, maybe 5 to 10 years, we will have consumption that matches China. That means our FMCG market will be 4 times what it is today. And that's not the limit, right? It can grow from there as our income levels grow. So that means that, even the domestic market, because the income levels are rising and things like that, is going to be so much bigger. So to me, what these 2 things show is that today is the best time to be a MSME business in India, because there is so much growth ahead of you, both in terms of, so many companies, with money and with demand trying to relocate their factories here, and with so much more consumption going to happen in this country, and, which is going to drive growth for your business. So if you are convinced, irrespective of your age, whether you are in your 30s or in your 50s, right, the next 20 years present the greatest opportunity for us to grow our business, then, what should I do today? Because in my view, what is limiting the MSME growth, is only two things. One is, after MSME business, can starts making some profit, right? The MSME businessman is, he gets stuck in a routine. Every day you just, talk to the same people who are your customers, take orders, execute, and get funding, repay the loan. So it is the same cycle, right? There is no, and the MSME's justification is that there is no time to think, anything else, because you are really caught in that cycle all the time. But if anybody wants to grow their business, in fact, the first lesson I learned is that if I want to grow my business, I have to spend at least 1 or 2 hours thinking about, how, where is my industry going? Where is the market going? Right? These kind of questions. And every day, every day I have to look at what is happening, around me, what is happening in my industry, and connect the dots to form my own opinion or my own perspective about where my market is going and where my industry is going. Because if we don't ask that question, right, especially, this digital revolution is a time where, we are in an inflection point. Like, the example I give is, I graduated in the year 1990, and I can say when I started working, there was not a big difference between, in remuneration between people who do labor and people who are well educated or something like that, right? The quality of life, there was no huge difference. For example, people who were in organized work, organized profession, were also mostly middle class and they can't afford a car, right? And but once liberalization happened, right? Once internet is there and the technology advancement happened, the divide between knowledge workers and the labor workers, it is growing every year. So you can say the laborers, compensation didn't even increase, with inflation. Whereas the knowledge workers had their wages increase, by leaps and bounds, right? And especially with pandemic, it even had much bigger increase. Right? The same thing is going to happen for businesses who are digital versus who are not digital. Right? So businesses who are digital are going to benefit a lot from this digitization, whereas businesses that are not digital, right, are going to be extinct and they will struggle. The way they will get out of the business will be very bitter. Right? So that means, should I digitize my business? It is not about, whether I should or not. Right? It is about when do I start? And today is, the best day to start, because any delay you have less time to catch up. Considering the opportunity that is available, I always say, if the best time for you is as soon as you wake up, the first 1 hour of the day should be spent on thinking about how do I make my business digital. And, remember, this is not an event. This is not like, I have to, I have to reduce my carbon emission. So I'll go from a, IC engine car to a electric car. So I'll just, in Cars 24 or something, I'll sell this and buy an electric car and I reduce my carbon footprint, at least at the point of consumption, right? It is not like that. Going digital is a process. That means that you have to be at it for, it's like a health thing, right? You don't say, I will run a marathon one day and the remaining 364 days I will be healthy. Every day you have to walk or every day you have to run, right? So digital transformation is like that. So what I am going to do is, when I talk about the how, I'll talk about what you should do every day. But the resolution you have to make is, every day, the first thing I will work on, like, people say first thing you have to do is your physical workout. First thing you have to do is to think about the digital transformation and what you have to do for the day, what you have to do for the week, right? So before I get into how do I do that, maybe I'll talk a little bit about what is digital. Because a lot of times this word digital has become, very popular, and all of us have heard it many times. And most of the time, we are shy to ask, what does it actually mean? Because I know, I have to go digital. I understand everybody talks about it, but I don't want to ask anybody what is digital, because people will think I am ignorant or I don't know, right? So, even if I'm repeating to somebody here, I want to explain what is digital, because with some examples, so it is very easy for us to understand. So, digital really means, like we all saw computerization. How did computer get into our business? So to me, when your business is computerized, you command the computer. You go and, computer doesn't do anything by itself, right? You go and pull down a menu and, click on a menu so that computer can perform some action. And so you are the master when you use the computer. Whereas if you go digital, in all our work, computer will start commanding the human being. Right? So that is the best way to look at digital. If you take an example, I am assuming all of us live in Chennai. So if we go back to the non-Uber world, how it was to hire an auto or taxi, right, in Chennai, especially autos, right, when you get down in Egmore station or Central station, right, and you want to hire an auto to go to your house, right, how much haggling you have to do, and, your experience, how it was, right. And then think about the best days of Ola and Uber, because today may not be the best day for them, but the best days of Ola and Uber, when they were incentivizing the cab drivers and auto drivers, right, where we had a true digital experience in Chennai. Right? So you book an auto, the auto is there, you know when exactly the auto will come to pick you up, when you will reach your home, what is the fare you have to pay, right? And the auto itself or the vehicle itself is cleaner than what it used to be. And most importantly, the driver was a lot more polite than how he was. Right? Think about it, most of them were middle-aged men or even older men. How did their habit change so fast? Right? And you don't have to call anybody to ask where is the auto. Right? You don't have to talk to anybody. Right? Everything is available in your mobile. Right? And when you get dropped in your destination, you can rate the service, you can rate the quality of the ride, you can rate the quality of the vehicle, everything. Right? So the system was taking care of everything. When you book a ride in Ola, it is not like some people are sitting and coordinating between the driver and you, and and then you will complain and things like that. Right? That entire experience is fully digital. Even when Ola does 1 million rides a day, right? Nobody sweats anything. If anything, the servers which handle the traffic, they get a little heated up, and a little more air conditioning is consumed. But no human being, even looks at, you booked a ride, whether your ride was completed to your satisfaction or anything, right? So that is a complete digital experience. Where if you look at it, the auto driver who is the labor involved in fulfilling that service, he, his behavior itself is changed because the system is recording, right, his performance and his vehicle's, hygiene condition and everything, and he is playing by the rules, right? If there were people, we know, we will say he arrived late and he will say he arrived on time. And there will only be argument where the person who is listening to both sides can never make a decision. And in our business as an MSME, we most of the time, goes in listening to stories, two sides of the same coin, and our inability to make a decision, right? So going digital, especially wherever you have labor-intensive jobs, right? And especially when, why is the driver, in fact, that's the important question to ask. Why did this driver change his behavior? Right? Actually, people want dignity of labor. People want freedom. People want time and space. So here the driver can say, I am logged in now. I am available to work. And whenever he feels tired or he doesn't want to do the job, he can log out. So there is no, compulsion for him to work, right? So he works on his own time. He has space, and he knows the consumer is also not going to haggle and not going to argue and things like that. So that means, the dignity of labor is higher, the time and space available is better and things like that. So when your business has to attract younger and younger people, the young people don't want monitoring. The young people don't want micromanagement, right? And the young people don't want to be told what to do every hour or every half an hour, right? So the digital, if you take your business digital, people are going to enjoy that freedom, the time and space they get and the dignity they get. And it is going to even improve your, retention of people, right? Because people know that, okay, this is what I have to do and I do this, and, the work is completed. I know whether the work is completed with quality or not. Then and there, everything is known, and that is highly liberating, right? And the other important thing is, your training of people becomes easier. So you can see, the Ola or Uber drivers, the Swiggy and Zomato drivers, delivery people, all of them, they can get trained very easily, and nobody need to give them a theory class of what are the terms and conditions under which they have to work or something. Everything is integrated into that app that they have, right? They just have to follow what the app says, and their work is done to the satisfaction if they just follow that, right? So in short, in how many places, so if I am an MSME owner, when I walk into my office every day, see, this is a journey I personally started about 7-8 years back, because, and I was following this in 96, 97 also. That is what gave us a lot of growth, right? That is, initially when I started the company, when I go into the office, and there are 4 or 5 people waiting to ask me something, right? It felt very good, because I know only I can help them. Only I can make the decision, right? And without my help, they cannot proceed, right? But once we became a little bit bigger than that, when people are waiting for me, I got tense, because why are they wasting time, right? Meaning waiting for me. If 10 people wait for me for 1 hour, I have already lost about 1.5 days of productive work. So how do I remove my dependency? Because in most of the MSME businesses, the owners feel good. Their ego gets a good ego stroke when they know that people wait for them. Without their input, people cannot proceed, right? So that is the first thing, MSME businesses have to get out of when they go digital, right? So when people come to you with a question, right, you have to ask yourself, how do you eliminate your dependency there? I think that is where, even every day you can ask, why are people asking this question to me? If some question is repeatedly asked by people, why, am I not teaching them properly? Or is our policy on this not clear? Because I make a decision on this particular thing depending on the mood I am in. Why people are not making that decision? So because if your growth is in removing your dependency, removing the fact that you are the most important person in your business, right? The moment a owner, becomes like an unimportant person in his business, right? I feel very happy. For example, in 99 or 2000, I used to tell people there used to be 3 or 4 phones, and I got my mobile also, and nobody calls me, right? So to me, that nobody calls me is the proud moment for me. If someday when nobody calls me, I know things are happening very well, right? And there is no dependency. So to me, that is the number one, indicator of growth. You are here, from your office, if 10 people have called you in the last 2 hours, then you should say that I am the villain for my business. My business is not growing because of me. If we have that clarity, growth is guaranteed. And if you have that clarity, your business, making your business also digital, it becomes easy. Okay. So I hope, I have bored you enough on what is digital. Now comes the question of how do I go digital? Right? Because a lot of times we think digital means I have to buy a new software. Right? A lot of times we think, if I buy a new software, that solves all my problem. Right? I become digital. Right? So if any of you have that thought, my sincere request is that you should give that up. Right? A tool, can solve the problem, but there are some certain things that you have to do before you actually even choose a tool that will solve your problem. Right? So I want to talk about 5 things that you have to do before even you go to, choosing a tool. Right? This is very important because in a lot of the businesses, any process improvement that happens, right, any policy change that happens is reaction to something. No MSME business looks at, the processes holistically and say, I will change my process. Right? We continue doing what we are doing all the time. And if there are problems happening and that problem results in a big loss or something, we change something, once in a while. Otherwise, we are happy that, our business is run the same way for the last 25 years. Right? We take pride in that because we think 25 years back, we found the right way to run this business. Right? But we have to remember, in fact, my favorite quote is by Charles Darwin. Right? He said, the most intelligent of the species don't survive. Right? The strongest of the species also don't survive. The species that is, adaptable to change is the only species that survive. So if you say last 25 years, our processes are the same, we have not done any major change, right? That is again a second problem, right, after yourself. Because, so much has changed in technology, so much has changed in every aspect of the business, our processes have to change, our policies have to change, right? So these 5 transformations we have to do to achieve the digital transformation. Right? The 5 transformations we have to do. So the first one and the most important one is the customer journey transformation. So how many of us can say we have our customer journey, well documented, and I have a diagram in a A4 sheet or even a A2 sheet or whatever, right? Where the customer journey can be explained to somebody in 15-20 minutes. Right? Because a customer journey in a business can be like a tribal knowledge or a hearsay in a business, right? Or it can be common sense. Because I have been doing it for so many years, it is common sense, versus we have documented the customer journey. Right? And when we say we have documented the customer journey, most of the time we focus on what we call as the happy path. That means an inquiry comes in, and then, how does that inquiry get handled? How do we generate quotation? How do we take the order? How do we do the delivery? How do we take the post-delivery feedback? How does we do the customer retention and things like that, right? So that is the happy path. But the most important thing is, how are those unhappy paths handled? Right? What happens when a customer escalates? What happens when a customer, wants to cancel the order? What happens when the customer wants to return the delivery? Right? What happens when things are broken? What is delivered is broken, right? Because if you look at Uber or Ola, right? When driver cancels the ride after accepting it, when you cancel the ride, right? When a driver doesn't show up, anything that happens, everything is handled in the app itself. Right? Nobody has ever felt the need to call Uber and talk to somebody. Right? Even when they deduct 50 rupees for cancellation, all you have to do is go to some other part of the app and say, I was not at fault, and they refund the 50 rupees. Right? Up to that is completely, the customer is empowered. Right? So like that, every part of the unhappy path in the customer journey, have we really documented it very clearly? Which can be used to train people who are handling the customer journey. Right? Because when you choose a technology, it is the clarity that you have in that customer journey that is going to be implemented in the tool. Otherwise, you will have the best of tools. It's like, having the best tool, in somebody's hand, but they don't know how to use the tool. Right? And so that problem will come. So having this customer journey very clearly, and then you look for a tool to implement that customer journey. Right? So that customer journey must make sure, in digital era, customer empowerment is very important. In fact, I would really love to listen to that customer ecstasy session in the afternoon. To me, customer ecstasy is possible only when customer is empowered. Why are we so addicted to Uber or Swiggy or something, right? Because we are empowered. So that customer empowerment for every business is very important, and is it there in the customer journey? That is what we have to validate. So the moment your customer journey is completely documented and you transform it to the modern age, that means you end up empowering the customer, you defining everything, you start defining everything clearly. The second transformation, you have to look at this, the cultural transformation. Because you can't empower the customer without empowering your own people. Right? Most of the time in MS, what I have found is that, when you employ people, people don't want to take responsibility. People don't want to be accountable. Right? So the easiest thing, this also I find it as a growth limiter. Right? So people want to push the decision to their boss. Right? So all decisions land at your doorstep because you are the owner of the business. In fact, one thing I do is when people come to me with a problem, this is called reverse delegation in management. When any of my subordinate try to reverse delegate decisions to me, right, their responsibility to me, I don't listen to the problem at all. I tell them, if you come to me with a problem, you are as smart or smarter than me and you are younger than me. So that means you have to come to me with 3 recommended solutions. What are the 3 solutions you have thought about and what is your most preferred solution in that? So only if you have thought about 3 solutions and you can recommend one solution and explain to me why, you can come and meet me. Right? So 90% times people don't come to me at all, because if they can think of 3 solutions and can think about one best solution for that, they don't have to come to me at all. That means that, if you want to grow, we should stop listening to problems. We should demand that people come to us with a solution. So that kind of cultural transformation, because finally what is empowerment? Empowerment is people know how to make decisions. Right? People know how to make decisions given the policy of the company, given the process of the company, given the authorization levels they have and things like that. Right? So you empower people to think about solutions. In fact, what we have found is the moment we give that freedom to people. See, I have worked with many large companies as a customer. One thing I find is most of the Indian companies, and even many companies abroad, people have absolutely zero empowerment. They will always say they have to go to their hierarchy to make a decision. Right? Because the focus is too much on, being right all the time, rather than, taking some risk. But as MSMEs, if we give the freedom to people, if we empower people, the retention increases. Right? Because people enjoy that space that is given to them. Right? So this cultural transformation is very important. So when you empower people, you also become a more flat organization. You are not very hierarchical. Right? So that is very important, that cultural transformation, because to be digital, you can't say all power with me and but our business will be digitally transformed. That's an oxymoron. Meaning the moment you digitally transform your business, your customer is empowered and your people have to be empowered. No escape from that. Right? So that mindset has to come, that cultural transformation has to come to us, and that cultural transformation have to be implemented in our process, in our tool, and so that people are empowered, right? And in our practice when people come to us with problems. And the third important thing, the moment we do these two, we have to look at the business model transformation. See, one important thing is, the other area where I find, the opportunities for MSMEs growing too fast is this online commerce and the omni-channel, right? So if you look at our government's initiative of this open network for digital commerce, right? So now MSMEs can list online, much more easily when ONDC is operational, and they are part of everybody's mobile, right? With ONDC, whether you take a Paytm, GPay kind of an app, or a HDFC, Kotak Mahindra kind of an app, or messaging app like WhatsApp, in all of them the commerce option will be there. Under commerce option, they can go and discover your business, right? So you don't have that cost of customer acquisition, and you are there in everybody's pocket, everybody's fingertip, right? So that kind of opportunity is there for all the MSMEs, whether they are in B2B business or B2C business, right? Your reach is going to be a lot wider. And there are going to be very cost-effective logistics service providers, cost-effective payment providers, and all the ecosystem is going to be there, for people to reach out to a wider, larger customer, right? So that means in your business model, right, you have to look at some of the expense items will go away and many new expense items will show up. Why some expense items will go away? The moment you empower people and digitally transform your business, what happens is some of the roles in your organization will become redundant. For example, I believe, if you have any coordinator in your business, all coordinator business will become redundant because no coordination is required. Right? And you will have many of the manager roles will become redundant. Right? In fact, in Gofrugal, we started our digital transformation journey about 7-8 years back, and we had a 5-layer organization when we started it. Within 3-4 years, I realized that we can do with 3 levels of organization. So, and we modeled the 3 layers on a sports team model. So we have team members, we have coaches and mentors. So that is the 3 level. Right? So, and every team member is a manager in the sense whatever, process or whatever work they have to do, they have the ownership. So everybody is a manager, and there are, in the traditional word, right? But we have only team member, coach, and a mentor, right? So that means when you go digital, some of the skills also will not be required. To give an example, 10-15 years back when we hire a driver for our car, right? One of the important questions we will ask is, do you know the routes in the city? Right? But once Google Map is there, nobody asks that question. Right? We don't care where the guy comes from. We only look at his driving license, whether he has any accident cases or whatever, how good is he in driving, not whether he knows the route or not. So like that, when you go digital and keep improving it, I would say in every role you will find that 30, 40, 50% of the skills are not required. Right? So much simplification of roles will happen, and that means your business model, right, will go through a change. Some new expense items will show up, some existing expense items will go, will get removed. New investments will be required, especially on technology, right? And so the business model have to be reviewed every quarter or every 6 months, and your big business will become more omni-channel. Each channel will have different cost structures. Each channel will have different marketing cost, right? So it's very important to continuously review the business model every quarter or every 6 months, especially during this changing times. The fourth transformation is the technology transformation, right? Because, your technology, whatever you adopt, should be capable of supporting these all the other things we talked about. So, and here it is not like a technology that is ready today, right? Because this whole thing is an evolving topic. That means you have to choose a technology vendor who can give you a reasonable start in what you want to do, but who keeps evolving, right, the solution. So who is very agile, right? Because you will keep learning more and more on these digital aspects, and the solution also must keep pace with the changes. Right? So there is nothing like, it's not like I implement some software today, next 10 years I don't have to worry. If you have some such technology solution today, where you are not getting updates every month or updates every few weeks, then you are with the wrong technology solution, right? Because the only way, people, businesses can keep pace with change and continue evolving is by going with vendors in technology who keep evolving their solution. Right? So that agility is very important, both for the vendors you work with on the technology side and for your own organization. Right? That continuous update, continuous improvement, continuous feedback is very, very important in the technology transformation. And the last and final one is the people transformation. Even though I talk about it last, this is the most important thing, because every transformative thing we do, means that people's mindset have to be transformed. The mindset is transformed in the sense, most of the time, in our organization, when people can't do something, we keep blaming the technology for it. Right? Whereas the mindset have to change to how do we, make incremental improvement to the technology, right? So that we continuously improve. This continuous improvement is a mindset. In fact, in every organization, people, we have to educate people, saying, when you come to work, if your hands and legs and eyes are going to work and do repeatedly what you are doing, your job will get obsolete very fast. Whether you have factory worker or whether you have a office manager or a sales manager or anybody, we must encourage people to use their brain. Right? See, most of the time we think, especially when junior people come to work, right? We think, if they use their brain, it is dangerous to the business. That thinking is there. We don't listen to them. But one important people transformation that has to happen, if we want to digitally transform, is we listen to lot more to, and the avenues for expression is there for every staff in our organization. Because digital transformation is about using the brain of everybody. Right? It is not like thrusting a solution from the top and telling people, okay, you just have to use it. Right? We sit with them, we understand what is the challenge, we understand what are the frictions they are facing, so that we can remove all the friction. So if we, get up every day, when we wake up every day, if we think about how frictionless is my customer journey, what improvement I can make in the customer journey. When people in my organization come and ask me questions, what is not clear in my policy, what is not clear in my process, what is not implemented right in my tool. If we ask those questions, and if we continuously review and improve our culture, if we continuously review and improve our business model, and if we continuously keep pace with the technology updates that are happening, and people's mindset, everybody, we push them to give ideas. For example, some of the most productive engagements we have had with our people is we conduct what is called Ideathon and Hackathon. Right? In the sense, for 3-4 days, we tell people to, fill and send, submit their entry on what all can be improved in our business, in any aspect of our business, right? In our own processes and all. When we do that, we get surprised, from, you expect, your managers to be giving most of the feedback on what can be improved. But what we find is many times, the guy with the least experience as a team member is giving, a lot of feedback on what can be improved. Right? So how often do we get all the people and ask them, a 4-hour session where we just listen and ask them what all can be improved to make their life better, to make them happier at work, right? If we do that kind of a session, we will be surprised how many ideas we can get on how our business can be simplified. And that can accelerate your progress towards your organization's digital transformation. So in summary, I believe there is a historic opportunity in front of us, and there is no choice. We must all become a digitally transformed business if we have to leverage this opportunity and grow. And it is very easy. It has to be done every single day. It is not an event, right? It's a journey, and we will all do well if we start the journey today. Thank you very much again for the opportunity, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Now the floor is open for the Q&A.
Yes, sir.
Sir, my name is K.N. Suresh Babu. I'm Executive Committee Member, Andhra Chamber. I have a question, sir. Today you have been talking about Zoho, Ola, or Swiggy, or whatever. Earlier, the business model used to be, you need to make profit in order to sustain, okay? But I really don't understand today. They say they are still in loss, huge loss, but yet they run. Can you throw some light? I really don't understand their business model, because you have mentioned them in the digital transformation, but yet they are making huge losses, thousands of crores loss. Can you throw some light on their
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you, Suresh, for asking this question. See, people's habit have to change. Digital gives lot of productivity benefit. Digital makes life easier, simpler, and happier for everybody. But the people's habit have to change, right? So they are incurring huge losses because there is a cost structure in the business, right? And they are footing all the losses to change people's habit. Okay. But if you look at their numbers, right, I always project the numbers to see when they will be profitable. Right? So honestly, for many of these businesses, I can't project, whether some number of customers or some number of this, and see when they will be profitable. In fact, on record, when Zomato CEO was asked when they will be profitable, even he said he doesn't know. Right? That's the truth, right? But I see huge opportunity for businesses that are run profitably, in the right business model, right? In the sense that all of you are making a profit, that's why you are here, right? There is a huge opportunity for you because they are investing on training the people. They are investing on setting an expectation to people on how customer service should be. Right? So customers want frictionless experience now. So that means they are creating a market for you. So when you offer that frictionless experience where you can do business in a profitable manner, you will actually reap the rewards of their investment. That's how I see it. So the way I see it is, till they run out of money, right? Let them do what they do, because that is the investment they are doing to train all the people on being digital. So they are creating the market, and you are going to enjoy the fruits of that market. That's how you have to look at it. Okay. So, thank you.
Would you recommend that model? I mean, I'm really...
No, see, their model, there are profitable models, adaptation of that model. For example, let us take Uber, Ola, or Swiggy, right? They charge, or Amazon, they charge between 20 to 40% from the actual service provider. So if you take a Zomato or Swiggy, they charge about 22% from the restaurants. If you take Ola or Uber, they charge about 28% from the drivers, right? Amazon charges between 18 to 40%, right? And still they are losing money. Right? And still they are losing money, right? If today, when you order in a Swiggy or Zomato, you pay 135 rupees for food that will cost you just 100 rupees in the restaurant, right? And the restaurant owner only gets probably 75 rupees or 80 rupees. They are unhappy about it. Despite that, they are losing money, right? So the alternate model, you look at ONDC, right? The open network for digital commerce, right? Where the consumer is going to order from their phone, Paytm or PhonePe or Google Pay or HDFC Bank app or Kotak Mahindra Bank, ICICI Bank app or something, right? Consumer is going to order. The transaction is between the buyer and the seller directly. Every technology platform or network in the middle is only facilitator. So they don't take a huge cut, right? And this ONDC model unbundles. So there is a discovery, there is a order management, there is a logistics, there is payment. Consumer has total freedom in choosing whom he wants to avail all these 4 services from. And the network does not use data, or marketing money of the seller to show buy button for one on top, right? The network is going to be a arm's length relationship with all the sellers. So if you take that kind of a model, right? In that model, the seller will incur probably 5%, 4%, 3% kind of a cost. And with competition, even that will come down, right? So eventually, you need platforms where, the transaction is between seller and the buyer, and the transaction is not between, the consumer and the marketplace and the seller. Because in the current models, Swiggy doesn't give phone number or contact detail of the consumer. Amazon doesn't give that, right? So in those models, the commerce is happening between, the buyer and the marketplace, and there is another transaction between marketplace and the seller. Instead of that, there is freedom for everybody, and the cost of the entire transaction is, very healthy for everybody, right? And there is no, nobody is building a bigger brand than the seller's brand. See, why is there so much money lost? Because Swiggy wants to be a bigger brand than the Adayar Ananda Bhavan or the Pizza Hut or anybody, right? Swiggy is the brand. That is why they give so much incentive, so much money is getting lost. Whereas if technology just facilitates and the commerce is between the buyer and the seller, and everybody both of them want to be profitable, right? You will find that model to be the winner in the end. So consumers get the same convenience they are getting. They get a sustainable and credible low price, right? Credible price. Today when consumer gets an offer, it is not a credible price. I get my home delivery done. Every time I order, I know today due to me Swiggy lost so much money, or due to me Zomato lost so much money, right? That won't be there. Everybody makes a profit in that chain.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Shrikant,
Hello.
and thank you for your valuable detailed steps you have given from your practical experience. So I'm a digital growth coach. I help a lot of MSME business owners to really scale up their businesses through various digital means, right? From mindset to the technologies and solutions. And what you have actually shared is a really practical way of how everybody goes through. But what I thought it might be really helpful for all the MSME owners here, if you can share, how did you go through your mindset change? Because it is not so easy when you start your journey to really embrace the digitalization. So I'm sure there are a lot of practical resistance and challenges you faced, and how did you go and overcome that? Maybe a little bit of tips and light on in this forum might help all of us to really benefit from your experience.
Thank you for that question. See, first we have to understand, in fact, Mr. Narayana Murthy, founder of Infosys, said something very profound, right? He said the progress is often the distance between mind and the mindset. Right? So our mindset is stuck in the past. So when we read, when we listen, when we have experiences, when we see, right? Our mind is exposed to possibilities. Right? So we know this is possible. Right? So in our own self-interest, we have to look at that possibility. Right? And every morning when you work on this digital transformation exercise I talked about, that is where you are moving your mindset maybe 1 millimeter or 1 nanometer at a time, to what is possible that your mind has been exposed to. Right? So in fact, whenever people talk about a problem, in fact, like when we say you conduct an ideathon, you ask people to talk, right? We are all, great in talking about problems, right? So, first time I conduct a meeting, in a 4-hour meeting, if you listen to 200 problems that people say, right? Your own mind, you feel very poor, right? Your own experience is very poor, right? Because how can I make you happy? You will hear 200 ideas, whichever company you are part of, right? But if people keep talking about problems, right, we are going to feel poor. So that is why we changed after the first meeting. It's a happy thing we are working on. We are talking about progress. We are talking about, opportunities. Why should we all feel miserable when we talk about that? So we changed it to, let's not talk about problem. Let us talk about possibilities. So you faced a problem. You just don't say, this is the problem. You say, how can you improve? So the first change that has to be brought in is, you are part of the solution. So nobody's job is to complain. Nobody's job is to cry. Right? Only the incompetent cry. Or only the incompetent get angry. Right? We are all here to solve the problem. Right? What makes our job very enjoyable is that you have the power to change. You have the power to talk about possibilities. You have the power to talk about solution. Right? It is not, my job is not to give you the solution. Right? You find the solution yourself. Right? So that mindset change first we brought about. That means we will celebrate the guy who come up with the solution, who come up with the improvement. The moment we do that, the moment we celebrate the guy who comes up with the, with the challenge and how he wants to solve it, and we accept it, right? Or we give him the flexibility to solve that, right? The moment we celebrate that, slowly, one by one, people change, right? So, we should not expect magic. If you have a 100 people organization, you first identify one guy who is willing to, toe your line. Then the 1 will become 10, 10 will become 20, 20 will become 50. Over the first year, you will find that 80% of the people are changed. There are always people who find excuses, who want something or somebody to blame and things like that. They find that this is not an organization where I can complain and survive. Right? They live on their own. Right? So I think, in long story short, I would basically say, how can you, turn the discussions into discussions about opportunities and possibilities? Right? How can you celebrate that? That is where, positivity will come in. People find that this is very enjoyable, because otherwise, when people, younger people talk about problems, the managers will feel, threatened, right? So those things you are eliminating by doing that. I hope I have answered it. Thank you.
Rest of the questions can be asked with him offline. Due to time constraint, we are moving on to the next thing.
Ma'am, just
Thank you.
Last question. He is very eager. Offline. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Sendil Kumar, a business consultant. இப்போ சர்வீஸ் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில் நம்ம டிஜிட்டலைசேஷன் ஃபாஸ்ட்டாக பண்ண முடியும், ஈஸியாக பண்ண முடியும். நம்ம கன்வென்ஷன் மேனுஃபேக்சரிங் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ்க்கு டிஜிட்டலைசேஷன் எவ்வளோ பாசிபிள்னு தெரியல எனக்கு. அது எப்படி பண்ணுறதுன்னு கொஞ்சம் ஒரு சின்ன ஹிண்ட் கொடுத்தீங்கன்னா நல்லா இருக்கும் சார்.
Sir, first, every business, we have to believe it is possible. I think that is where the possibilities, can be seen by us, felt by us, right? Because I think that is the mindset he was talking about, right? The moment we believe, digitization is possible, change is possible. And second thing is, it is not top down, it is bottom up. Everybody have to be involved. So we will ask people who are working in the shop floor, we will ask the supervisors in the shop floor, how can their job be made easy? Right? Because they are all users of all the digital tools in their personal life, in their apps, right? You will be surprised, right? So by just involving everybody and by believing the possibility, I am very sure every business can, transform themselves digitally. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for your patience, and thank you, all the best.
Thank you, sir. As a token of our gratitude, we would like to present a memento to the speaker. And for that, I invite Mr. C.H. Venkateshwara Rao, Vice President, ACC, please. Thank you, sir. We now move on to the session 2. Fintech is a boon to MSME's 10x growth transformation.